All right, good evening. My name is Dele Ayemibo. This is Import-Export Platform, Facebook Live, brought to you by 3 Best Trade Academy. We are discussing this evening another session of A to Z of export business financing, and we are looking at part 19 today, part 19, and our focus will be on timelines, management of timeline in export financing. Igwe Gift, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. You're welcome. Management of timeline in export financing. I was reading out some quotes in the morning. I will complete those quotes and then we'll go straight into the business of this evening. Hopefully by tomorrow morning I should round off this session. That's part 20 of A to Z of export business financing. Purchase order is to an export transaction what foundation is to a building. Hence, the need for it to be solid enough to prevent the collapse of the export transaction. So the export transaction, if it's going to be solid enough, then the export contract or the purchase order must be very good. Watertight, well covered, every aspect well thought of. Not just something that is one-sided in favor of the buyers only, but also covering the seller. Quality is key to sustainability of the product in the export market. Do not compromise it. Quality is key. Do not compromise it. Focusing on the return on investment at the expense of security of capital and learning the ropes is the road to losses in export business. If you focus only on return on investment and not looking at security of capital, that's actually the road to losses in export business. Do you desire the simplicity of open account or bill for collection in your export transaction? Then request for standby letter of credit from a buyer willing to give letter of credit. Then request for a standby letter of credit from a buyer that is willing to give a letter of credit. If you desire simplicity in your transaction, you want to avoid any form of complication in your transaction, then you want to focus only on bill for collection or open account. You want simplicity, but the buyer is willing to give you an LC. Why don't you change that LC to standard letter of credit so you can enjoy the simplicity of open account or bill for collection? One of the major reasons for bad loan in export financing transaction is a mismatch of export financing requirement and the export financing option deployed. A mismatch of the export financing requirement and the export financing options that was deployed. And the export financing options that was deployed. A mismatch in that can actually lead to failure in export financing transaction. So let's go straight into the business of this evening and we'll be discussing timelines. Many export finance transactions go bad because of wrong tenor, which was either fixed arbitrarily or based on customer's claim on his request and not on documentary evidence from previous transaction. Many export finance transactions go bad, and I've witnessed one of these. A client went to a bank and they just gave him 3 months and gave him a loan for 3 months. Eventually, the transaction lasted more than 3 months, and of course, the interest he paid eventually ate into the profit, and he could not really make any serious profit from that transaction. Many export transactions go bad because of wrong tenor, which was either fixed arbitrarily by the financier or fixed by the financier based on the customer's claim on his request and not on documentary evidence from the previous transaction of the customer. So we are looking at timelines. There are a number of timelines that are worthy of consideration in financing and export transactions. They provide valuable information that help both the exporter and the financier to make export financing a success. They provide adequate information that can make export financing a success. Naemeka Anthony, okay, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. These timelines about about 5 of them we'll be looking at. And what you need to do is to understand the timeline and be able to know the importance of each of the timeline, which will also help the bank in the financing of that transaction. You need to know the importance of a timeline because it's going to help the bank in the financing of that transaction. This timeline can be obtained from the exporter with the history of previous shipment. If the exporter have done it before, the history of previous shipment will help you to be able to obtain this timeline. Adesheun Adewale, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. So, you as an exporter looking for financing should also find a way of demonstrating this timeline before the financier. For those just joining us, we are discussing A to Z of export business financing part 19. And we are looking at timelines, management of transaction timeline, management of transaction timelines in export financing, management of transaction timelines in export financing. And I was talking about the fact that in your request, you should be able to, number one, provide this timeline for the bank to have an idea of the timeline, state their name and what it means, and support them with the document of your previous transaction. Support your claim and assertion with the document of your previous transaction. Support your claims. Every claim, the way to get the bank to really be on your side, to know you're serious, to know you are credible, to know you know exactly what you're saying, what you're doing, and what you've been doing, is to ensure that every claim of your previous history, in your previous history, claim regarding payment, claim regarding shipment, claim regarding timeline, claim regarding quality, claim regarding quantity, claim regarding timeliness, every claim on your application should be backed up with a document. By the time you are backing it up with a document, especially a third-party document, you are telling the bank, look, I know exactly what I'm telling you. I know exactly what I'm doing. I am reliable and dependable as far as this current financing transaction request is concerned. It also means that an exporter who intends to source for funds rather from the bank should keep good record. For those that have been following us since we started about 2 weeks now, you'll notice that keeping good record has been coming up very constantly. Keeping record, documentary evidence. Keeping record has become very critical, has become very important, has become very crucial as far as export financing is concerned. To be able to prove to the bank that you are serious, you are credible. To show them the stuff you are made of and the fact that all your claims are real and are true. Every John Obono, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. So, it doesn't mean that exporter who intends to source for funds from the bank should keep good record of his transaction in order to be able to promptly provide this information whenever they are needed in the bank, by the bank. In order to be able to promptly provide this information whenever they are needed by the bank. These timelines include, number one, cash conversion cycle. Number two, receivable conversion cycle or period. Number three, payable conversion period. And number four, export transaction cycle. And number five, inventory conversion cycle. Inventory conversion cycle. Let's take them one by one. Remember, we are discussing management of timelines in export business financing. Management of timelines in export business financing. Adesheun Adewale, yes, good record. Keeping good record is extremely important. You know, and that's one thing that a lot of businesses don't take seriously. Filing, and in today's era of cloud computing, you don't even need to file physical document. Just ensure you have scanned copy of those documents, put it in your Google Drive, have a cloud account online, and ensure that you are able to keep it in those drives so that even if you are far away, wherever you are, you can log into the internet and pull down those documents. Pull up those documents. Some of the documents of transaction we did as far back as 2010, I can still provide them for you. 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017 are very, very, very important, and they must be kept, because these are the things that show your seriousness, your credibility, it shows a lot about you. It speaks volume about you. It speaks volume about you. But you will not be able to convince the bank about your timelines if you have not been keeping record. Being able to manage the timelines we are discussing today become extremely important to back up the credibility of your request. Remember, one of our objectives is being able to present a bankable export financing proposal. Henry Ackman, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. Being able to present a bankable export financing proposal. So the first one is cash conversion cycle. You know, cash conversion cycle is extremely important. Exactly. I'm reading what Adesheun said. Cloud account through Google could help to recall important documents. Very correct. Very correct. Cash conversion cycle. This is most vital timeline. Is the most vital timeline for any financier. Is the most vital timeline any financier. Someone is asking the question, what is the importance of export business to the economy? Do you know one of the topics we'll be looking at, maybe in the month of March, is actually why you should export. So Steve Kumasi, thank you very much for joining and good evening. And I will spending like almost 2 weeks discussing why you should export. Why Africa should export. Why Nigeria should export. Why individuals should export in different countries. So I love your question. What is the importance of export business to the economy? I'll be discussing that extensively. But straight up, I can tell you that no economy can grow to its desired size and become a subject of envy among the Committee of Nations if it's not exporting. Go check all the top economy in the world. Top economy in the world, they are mainly exporter. The largest economy in the world is the US. US is taking up about 25% of the world economy. US is the second largest exporter in the world. Second largest exporting country in the world, US. And US constitutes 25%. China constitutes about 15% of the economy of the world. And China is the second largest, US is the second largest exporting nation, has the highest GDP in the world. Whereas China is the largest exporting nation, has the second largest GDP in the world. Just next to the US. US is 25%, China is about 15%. As of 2018. So the importance of exporting is, someone said export is the lifeline of any serious economy. I agree with you 100%. Export is the lifeline of any serious economy. I'm going to be talking extensively on why we should export, why we must export, why we must do something serious about exporting in Nigeria. So, Steve Kumasi, thank you very much for your question. I will be addressing that most likely in the month of March. It's already on our schedule for the year. Cash conversion cycle, I'm back to cash conversion cycle. Cash conversion cycle, someone says, is the lifeline. Is the most vital, yes. It's the most vital timeline in finance for any financier. Because it involves the period between the disbursement of cash to the receipt of payment from the buyer abroad. Cash conversion cycle is the period between the disbursement of cash by any financier to the receipt of payment from the buyer abroad. It has been described as the measure of management effectiveness. When you think of an effective management, you look at their cash conversion cycle. How are they managing their cash flow? How are they managing their cash flow? Are they having so much extended credit terms, or they actually even get advance payment ahead So they are actually using the money of their customer to trade. I remember vividly as a banker in 2008, 2009, no, 2007, 2008, I realized that there is a company in this country, I don't want to mention their name, who sell cars. My colleague then will give them money. They take a loan from the bank, fund the account of this company, and wait for 3 months for their car to arrive. This company was using their money to import the cars. That's a very efficient management. Efficient cash flow management. They are not even using their money. They are using their money to do other things and making money with your money. You provide the fund, they use the fund to purchase forex, and they use it to pay for the car, and you wait for 3 months, sometimes 4 months, before you get the car. That is a perfect example of a very positive, a very great and good cash conversion cycle. The smaller the cash conversion cycle, or even negative cash conversion cycle, the better it is for you. The longer your cash conversion cycle, the inefficient that management is, or ineffective that management is, because cash conversion cycle is a measure of management effectiveness. So let's bring it down to export. I want to export pap. Instead of giving money to the pap producer to spend 1 or 2 months to produce for me, and then take the product and ship it, and then expect payment to come maybe about a month after, spending the money left January 1, we spend the whole of January producing, then we ship at the end of January, and we spend the whole of February waiting for payment. About 60 days for cash conversion cycle. But look at another scenario. A scenario whereby the supplier delivers the goods, and I have an agreement that I will pay him 30 days after shipment. 30 days after delivery to me. So the supplier delivers the goods, I ship the goods, and pay him 30 days after. So instead of having 60 days cash conversion cycle, I'm actually having negative cash conversion cycle. Because I'm really not even using my money at all. I'm having negative because I'm not using my money. Recently, the last pap we shipped, we actually have something pretty much similar. Because we paid, and within 24 hours of paying about half, we did the shipment. And we didn't pay the balance until we got the payment. And that's the way to be able to effectively. But you can only get to this point when you build relationship. The buyer, the supplier can trust you. The supplier can trust you. That's why, if you remember, in the earlier part of this conversation, I talked about the fact that credibility, character, competence are much more, and companion are much more important than cash in export financing. If I have built credibility with my supplier, if I have built character with my supplier is willing to deliver to me and expect the payment later. Why? Credibility, character, relationship. Can you see how vital relationship is in doing business? And it can help you to actually reduce your cash conversion cycle. It can help you to reduce significantly your cash conversion cycle by building relationship that the supplier can be sure is as sure at the back of his palm that if I deliver this good to this exporter, he will pay as at when due. Trust is a social capital. Don't lose it. Trust is a social capital. Don't lose it. Trust is a social capital. Don't lose it. Any business partner you are dealing with, relationship you are building with them is more important than the cash you are making in that relationship. The competence you are building with them is more important. The character you are building is more important. The relationship you are building is more important. The credibility of your business is more important. Adesina Adewale says, not using your money for the business is the best form of business that big company go for. That's actually what big company leverage on. If you are supplying any multinational, they will pay you 30, 60, 90 days. They use your money to do the business, and you will go and sleep. You don't even pat an eyelid, you just go and sleep because you are sure they will pay. That's the kind of business you want to build. That's the kind of business you want to build. That is an effective management who is able to ensure he leverage, you know, your credibility is so critical. Is much more tangible than the tangible cash. Your credibility. If you can build on the credibility, the character, the competence, you can build so much on it and grow your business and raise a lot of cash because of your credibility, your character, your competence, your companion. They are more important than cash. Please work on them. What a lot of businesses have lost is credibility. What a lot of businesses have lost is lack of relationship. What a lot of businesses have lost is lack of character. What a lot of businesses have lost is competence. And because of this, they are not able to raise cash. It becomes difficult to raise cash. They have a fantastic transaction that will turn the fortune of their business around, but nobody is looking at them. Why? They've lost credibility, they've lost competence, they've lost character, they've lost relationship. You can have a negative cash conversion cycle or a very short cash conversion cycle if you begin to leverage on your credibility. So that means you must begin to build credibility, consistency of result. You must begin to build character, consistency of conduct. You must begin to build competence, consistency of performance. You must begin to build companion, consistency of relationship. If you build this consistency of result, consistency of character, consistency of performance, consistency of relationship, you are on your way to developing a mechanism to always achieve negative cash conversion cycle and make your business attractive for funding. The next one is receivable conversion period. Receivable conversion period. This is the period between when the exporter sells the goods and the receipt of payment of the exporter's proceeds from abroad. The time from when the exporter sells the goods. The time from when the exporter sells the goods. The time from when the exporter sells the goods till when they receive export proceeds from abroad is called the receivable conversion period. Receivable conversion period. Adesina Adewale said, credibility, character, competence, and companion are foundation to which great companies are built. Yes, very, very correct. Very, very correct. Receivable conversion cycle. Receivable conversion cycle is the period, receivable conversion period is the period between when the exporter sells the goods and the period of payment of the export proceeds from abroad. So when I ship the goods, from the time I sell till when I get payment, receivable conversion period. Then the payable conversion period is the period between when the exporter receives the local supply from the local supplier and the time you pay the local supplier. The period between when you receive money from your receive goods from your local supplier and the time you pay your local supplier. Payable conversion period. The period between when you receive the delivery from your local supplier and when you pay your local supplier. Then, inventory conversion cycle. This is the period between when the exporter receives the item from the local supplier to be exported from the local supplier and the time it takes him to be able to sell it. The period between when the exporter received the goods and when he shipped the goods. Receivable inventory conversion period, the time from when you receive the goods till when you ship the goods. The time when you receive the goods till when you ship the goods. And lastly, the export transaction cycle. the export transaction cycle. This is also called the operation cycle. This is the period between when the exporter signed the purchase order and the time he received payment for the goods that he shipped. The time period between when the exporter signed the agreement with the buyer and the time he received payment for the goods. So, right from the commencement to the consummation. Commencement, signing of the agreement. Consummation, receipt for payment from abroad. Commencement, signing of the agreement. Consummation, receipt for payment from abroad. From commencement to consummation is called the export transaction cycle. From commencement to consummation is called the export transaction cycle. Now, this cycle that we have talked about today are very important. They are so important that they communicate vital information to the financier. So either you are sourcing the fund from a friend, from an export investor, from a bank, wherever you are sourcing the fund from, in your request, ensure you clearly document, clearly communicate, and clearly state your cash conversion cycle, and more importantly, your export transaction cycle. So it gives idea to the banks of the total time required for your transaction, and more importantly, the total time required for the funding. That from the time when the fund is made available to the time when the fund comes back. The time when the fund is made available to the time when the fund comes back. These are very vital period, vital information, vital timeline that you need to use to convince the exporter that you are very credible, convince the bank and financier that you are very credible, you are very serious, and you are going to be able to make use of the fund they are giving you very judiciously. Very judiciously. I'll be rounding off now at this point. We are coming to the end of A to Z of export business financing. Today we have looked at part 19 of A to Z of export business financing. Part 19. And tomorrow we are going to be looking at part 20. And that will be the last part of export financing. So if you are interested in learning about financing, we have recorded about 10 hours of lectures online, Facebook, about an hour every day, talking about financing of export transaction. You can pick up the videos on my YouTube channel. Just check my name, Ayemibo. You can search on YouTube channel, or you can check my timeline on Facebook. You can also pick up the audio version on SoundCloud. So you have the file in different formats on different platforms available for you. And you can listen to them to be able to have a good understanding of how to effectively present a bankable export financing proposal to an export investor, a financier, a bank, and be able to get your financing as at when due. Kemi Oladipo, thank you very much for joining. Welcome. Prince Adedamola Adeyemo, thank you very much for joining. You are very much welcome. We appreciate all the people joining us every now and then. Kemi Oladipo, yes, you can watch the previous edition on my timeline on Facebook, or you visit my YouTube channel, or you search for my name on SoundCloud. You can find both the audio and video on all those platforms. Thank you very much for joining again this evening. This is Import-Export Platform brought to you by 3 Tempest Trade Academy. My name remains Dele Ayemibo, and we'll see tomorrow morning as we round off this long discussion on export business financing. Thank you very much and have a very good evening. Bye for now.